What was the use for zeppelins? The blimp things in Saving Private Ryan are barrage balloons. They would basically raise a net of chains into the air to protect against low-flying aircraft like dive bombers. Actual zeppelins weren't really used in the military after WWI, where they'd be used as bombers. The US did use blimps kind of like helicopters to protect naval ships in WW2. I think you mean the small blimps. I think those are to inhibit low-flying planes from swooping in and strafing troops. Those were not zeppelins. They were flak balloons. As mentioned in another comment, there were anti-aircraft defenses. A zeppelin and a blimp are different. A zeppelin is an airship with a rigid structure with lighter-than-air gas bags in them with the whole thing covered by fabric. Blimps are big balloons with a carriage underneath for propulsion and steering. By the time of D-Day in 1944, zeppelins were long out of production. Surveillance. Those were not zeppelins, they were barrage balloons. https://n.wikipedia.org Wiki barrage balloon. Barrage balloons are to snag planes coming in for a strafing run. They are anchored the ground via steel cables that shred airplane wings. It's an anti-air defense system that doubles as observation platforms. First used as early bombers in the context of war and then for surveillance. Being up. Surveillance in a war setting, you could also mount guns on them. They could sit high enough that most bullets couldn't reach them, nor could a lot of the early planes. So they would watch, radio back, and occasionally shoot. Those weren't zeppelins, they were unmanned barrage balloons attached to the ground with steel cables. They are an obstacle to block low-flying ground attack aircraft. If the aircraft flies under them, the wings will hit the cables and the plane will go down. They were used by both sides throughout the war. Blimp, balloon limb, no structure, just an envelope, a wire cable hung under them to strike strafing aircraft. The big one was to get a viewing perch high above the action. Surveillance, reconnaissance, and spotting were the big jobs of blips in pre-radar warfare. Surveillance, bombing. Though they are huge, slow-moving targets filled with explosive gas they can't shield due to weight restrictions, and the aircraft quickly replaced them as a safer, faster alternative for every use. There's a good reason why blimps and balloons are hardly used anymore. They don't work that well. I think the heavy rhythm of the drums and bass, accentuating the bluesy guitar and raspy vocals, were meant to mesmerize the enemy when the levee breaks. Mostly just for great rock and roll. People were freaking out after WWI about blimps being used in war. Lots of treaties signed regarding their use in war. Reconnaissance, spotting for your artillery forces, or at one time just to transport people from place to place.